this is Lina. Welcome to an episode of Wake Up Calls with one of my favorite beings on the planet, David Mcleod. We are going to be doing a simulcast here. So this is going to be kind of interesting. We are going to be doing a live on Instagram. Thank you so much for joining me here. Yes, I love that. So glad that getting David on here. And then we're going to also be at Learn It Live. So this is a double whammy for our audience. And today, for this wonderful episode, we are going to explore what is truth. Hey, David.
Hi. I've never tried to simulcast on two different platforms before. This is interesting. So for people who are watching, I'm looking. I've got two different cameras here going, and I think Lina does too. So it may look like we're not looking at you, but we're trying to pay attention to everybody. So my name is David Mcleod. I am your life mastery coach. I am also the author of the book A Life to Die For, and one of the co-authors of the best-selling series, The Wellness Universe Guide to Complete Self-Care. I've been having a dream about doing this kind of a training, or not a training so much, but wake-up call kind of conversations with Lina for a while. It just came to me, and so I contacted Lina, and we talked about it, and we decided we're going to just do it and see what happens, and hopefully we can help do our part anyway, I hope, to maybe reduce the level of collective ego in the world and start to raise the level of collective consciousness. So that's our objective, and not a very big one, just massive.
Well, it's always fun to have these conversations with you, because no matter what, it definitely expands my consciousness. And if you hear a little sound in the background, my sweet little puppy Sandy, she is chewing on a big bone, and she is going to town on it, and that bone falls from her bed. Well, now she wants to do the live here with me. So here's Sandy, girl.
Oh, what a beauty.
And she is.
Yeah, I wasn't
amazing.
Noticing the dog so much, but I noticed that I think your speaker came back on your phone. So if you can just reduce the volume of that one, then we won't have that echo happening.
All right, I've got it totally reduced. So
yeah, that's better. I don't hear it anymore.
No, because it kicked you off of of Instagram. Whatever I press something and it stopped it. You know what I'm going to do? Oh, there it is. Back live. That's
very strange. So anyway, we decided on a topic of, we want to look at truth.
You know what? This is a delay on Instagram now. So let me turn Instagram off, and we're just going to do it through here.
Okay.
And we will play with that another day. Maybe I just need to have a headset to allow for that to be more seamless. So, okay. It was a good idea.
No, I think it's a great idea.
Let's get to
we get enough cameras, we could be on multiple platforms all at once. It could be really awesome.
It will be really awesome. So, What is truth? What is truth to you?
Well, now that is a really, really good question, because I remember I used to have my own idea of what truth is, especially when I was very much stuck in my ego. Of course, anything I believed was truth. That was what my ego wanted to believe, and anything that you believed that disagreed with me was clearly not truth. That was kind of the way I operated, and I think a lot of people still operate that way. What I've come to learn over the years is that my perspective is just my perspective, and how I see things certainly is true for me. Or whatever word we want to use there, it seems to be correct and accurate for me, but it may not necessarily be the same for somebody else. I remember, I think one of the simplest little exercises that somebody did really just, it flipped me in terms of perspective, where someone showed this, he had an object in his hand, and he would show it to you and say, "What do you see?" And I would say, "I see a basketball." And he'd say, well, no, this is actually the small town of whatever, Georgia, let's say. And then I would say, what are you talking about? And he'd flip the ball around the other way. And it was like one of those snow globe things on the other side, you know? And he said, see what I mean? And I said, oh yeah. So what seemed true to me is completely different from what you see as truth. And so that's kind of where I went on that little journey. And as a result of that, I still don't have a complete answer to what I think truth is, but I do know that it's definitely changed my perspective.
Well, same for me, because I was really clear when I was all up in my ego that I knew the truth, and the truth was what I believe was true, period. And I was very quick to defend. What I didn't realize until I started this journey is that I was always defending a perspective. I was always defending a point of view. I never knew the truth. And this journey brought me to the place of realizing that not only did I not know the truth, but everything that I thought was true was actually untrue. And to wrap my mind around, I've got to do a full 180, and it's been a journey of in essence, deleting, erasing, whatever metaphor you want to do, unlearning all of what I thought was true, and go through the very oftentimes extremely painful part of acknowledging to myself, oh, I was wrong about the truth. What I thought was true wasn't even really true. So that has been a major big aha for me.
Oh, bless you. I totally agree. Now, you know, when you ask the question, what is truth to you? I do believe there is such a thing as absolute truth. However, because of the nature of our physical experience on this planet and our limited perspective, in our current form, we don't have the right tools to be able to see everything that makes up absolute truth. So to go back to my little example of the ball, where on one side it looks like a basketball, and on the other side it looks like a snow globe. Well, both of those are true. And if we're, you know, for a metaphor, it could represent absolute truth. And the point is, if you can shift your perspective, then you can see different aspects of absolute truth, but you may not be able to see all of it at the same time. Now, once you elevate your consciousness to a high enough level and become one with all that is, then I believe you probably can see absolute truth and experience it too. But right now, in our limited human forms, we're not going to be able to do that. So right at this moment, it's more of a concept than an actual experience.
And, you know, one of the beautiful things that I've learned through the Course in Miracles is that we can, in physical form, have these transcendent moments where we experience absolute truth. And, you know, Jesus was one of those beings. Buddha was one of those beings who had that experience, and they were able to integrate their own mind into the living as that absolute truth. So I had an experience in 2007 when I was in 45 minutes of nothing but knowing the truth of all that is. And of course, it totally blew my mind. There was in that moment, there was no lie now. There was just an experience, as you said, it's an experience of all knowingness. But the minute that experience ended, my mind was trying to analyze it and figure it out. And I stayed in a bit of a high, I'm going to say, for probably a good week or two of going up and down, going up and down. But every single day, with every passing minute, my ego reassembled. And there was the part that was analyzing all that, judging that, doubting that, and activating all kinds of busyness in the mind and that was in 2007. That is literally 15 years ago. Until this day, I can tell you that I experienced absolute truth, but my egoic mind has reassembled to the place that I don't live as if absolute truth is what runs my life consciously, but it is what I want to live into. And while I'm in the world, the best that I can do is not be of it, because I know absolute truth, but I don't, it's not my lived practice, because I still have that conditioning, that relative truth that I am sorting out, which is a beautiful thing, because I have a contrast. It's almost like, when you experience true love. And I've loved many men in my life. I mean, I've had that experience with quite a few men, but there's been one where I felt that unbelievable, unconditional, total love for. And I can contrast all other relationships to that one, because I've never felt that exact same total and complete knowingness of what unconditional love was, what true love with a partner was. But I've got the contrast that it lets me know what to live into with other partnerships. And that's what that absolute truth did for me. And then we can talk about, what does knowing absolute truth, what does that open you to? Because that's a whole totally different journey.
I know. And that's the beauty of these conversations. We never know exactly where they're going to go. We start with a question and we see where it leads us. And I really like that. It gives us the freedom to, investigate different ideas. And I want to go to something that you said. You said when you had that experience of knowing absolute truth, that experience you said it blew your mind. And I love that experience, because that's precisely what happens. The mind just blows up. It's gone. And all you have left is kind of knowingness, rather than an analysis, and bliss. And like it, I've had a few experiences like that too. I don't think I had one that lasted quite that long, but I've had the experience of the visceral experience of being one with all it is. And it's a beautiful, beautiful experience, something that I'm always seeking to reconnect to, and I think that's what you said. That's what you're doing. You're trying to, you do your part to kind of quiet the ego mind, just to kind of get back into that quiet space and just allow yourself to be, rather than to be thinking, rather than to be doing, rather than to be trying, efforting, all that stuff. That, if you could just be, everything else just kind of magically becomes what it is. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. In that experience, what was so beautiful about it is that it's a moment of transcending. You're literally in the trance. To me, that's what to transcend. That became really clear.
Oh, I like that.
Is to
transcending. Very good.
So for a moment, the trance of the ego stops. Actually, that's one of the titles of my book, Transcend. So with a hyphen in the middle. So the minute that that I experience that leaving the trance, all that was possible was to be present. And in that presence, and I'll tell you what, it makes me want to cry. It was so beautiful, David. The experience was so beautiful. What I was connecting with, what I was in relationship with in that moment was so utterly beautiful, so enveloping of everything. It's like the best word, and I'm going to use words to describe something that is not possibly describable, because it's as if I melted. There was no line there. There was a total merging. So what I was, it just stops in the presence of that all-encompassing love and beauty and knowingness of the safety that we are being held inside of. It's as if who you think you are melts away, and then you merge. And in that merging with the all that isness, what became really clear for me is that I am an aspect of that, and they're not different. It's not different. It is the all that isness, but all that isness needs all the little ises to come together and be part of this whole, it's like pieces of a puzzle.
Right. I like that. I've never thought of myself as a little is before, but thank you.
We is, baby. We is.
We is. That's right.
Yes. And
that's beautiful. And there's another thing here that you were talking also about this experience of unconditional love that you had. And one thing I have learned, and I really truly believe this is true, is that unconditional love is a choice. It's a choice we can make. I can make that choice to love even those things which my ego mind finds unlovable. And it takes some energy and some effort to let the ego mind go quiet and to say, I understand you have judgments about that. That's okay. You got those judgments and I know where they came from. And I love you anyway, even though you have those judgments. And I also love this thing that you are judging so harshly, because I'm making that choice to project love into the world rather than anger or fear or hatred or any of those other emotions, which are so easy to get into when I'm stuck in my ego.
Well, and that's a beautiful place to take the conversation, because inside of that space, that is what I felt as pure unconditional love. All that is loves all that it has created, because it creates it to love it. It doesn't know what to do with it other than to love it, because it is one with it. And the closest to that I ever experienced was giving birth to my children. In that moment, you have children, and I don't know what it's like.
Yes, but I didn't give birth, at least not in this lifetime.
Yes, I don't know. Yes, what it's like for a man, but to give birth to a child, the most excruciating pain I've ever experienced was during childbirth. And the minute that child is out of you and they place it on your chest, you don't remember your body is in pain. You just are so in awe that beautiful being came out of your body, that in that moment when mother meets child, you already love it because it's in you. But now you're getting to experience it outside of you, and you get to see this incredible being that has been forming in your womb for 9 months, or however long it is for the mom that's experiencing that. That's a moment where you transcend the trans. You are just strictly so in love, and all you know is it can do, it doesn't matter what it does, you love it no matter what. And that's probably as close to a human description, which of course only women who have had children can understand. So it still makes it very difficult for all beings to recognize that moment of pure transcendence of who you think you are, what your body is going through, and just be focused on that unconditional love. And that unconditional love, to me, if I had to say what is ultimate truth, what is truth? To me, truth is that it is where there can be no opposites whatsoever, because it is the all encompassing, all that isness.
Right.
And because it loves all that is, so truth ultimately is that level of love, that unconditional love. So how did we become fearful, judgmental people? That to me is what became the essence of my journey. After that experience, I knew that everything else that I experienced, fear, judgment, jealousy, shame, guilt, blame, all of that was not the love that I am. And with that clarity became the journey was completely defined as to what it was. And it was not to try become what I am, but to reveal what I am by recognizing that when I'm in judgment, when I'm in jealousy, when I'm in blame and shame and guilt and fear, it's not who I am. So then comes well, where the heck did that come from? Why am I jealous? Why am I whatever? And, obviously it's one of the things that you've done, but you teach it. You teach people how to unravel that. What was the process like for you unraveling the what you're not?
It was a journey for sure. I think the way I frame it, the way I describe it to people is, I think my mother started me on that journey when I was 3 years old, and she did it. I don't know whether this was a conscious thing on her part or whether it was unconscious. It doesn't matter. But she said to me 8 words, which I forgot for many, many years. But now that I've remembered it, I don't forget it ever again. But those 8 words were very simple and very innocuous. And many people would say they're probably true too, to use the word of the day. But she said, "I know you better than you know yourself." She said that to me when I was, I think, 3 years old. Now, of course, who is my mother when I'm 3 years old, but probably the most powerful being in my little universe? And of course, my mom loves me. She's been telling me that all my life. She takes care of all my needs. She would never lie to me. So what she said must have been true, you see? And so my little boy mind made that decision at that moment. If mommy knows me better than I know myself, then so does daddy. Daddy knows me better than I know myself. And if daddy and mommy both know me better than I know myself, then Grammy and Grampy know me better than I know myself. And my aunts and uncles know me better. And pretty soon you can see what I did. I ended up basically saying, everybody knows me better than I know myself. So what do I end up doing? But unconsciously giving up my own sovereignty, my own individuality, and relying on other people for the rest of for the next 40 years to tell me who I am. And not only to tell me who I am, but to tell me exactly what I want and need. So I became completely dependent. Now, a side effect of this was, I'm not stupid. I had a pretty good mind and I was able to observe things. I saw that other people didn't have to subvert themselves to others. Some people were able to be quite independent and quite, not rebellious, that's not the word I want to say, but they were assertive. They would make their own choices. So I now started becoming resentful. Hey, how come he can do that, but I can't? These are the silly stories that came up in my head. By the time I was in my 40s, that resentment and anger had grown so strong that I was basically just full of rage and I didn't know it. So what happened? I had a rageful incident that suddenly caused me to think, how did this happen? How did I get here? What is going on? Why am I in this place that I am at now? Why am I so angry? And I didn't get the answer immediately, but I had to go through another process of figuring out where all that stuff came from. And it was not until I left my family, went to California, and started meeting all kinds of gurus and teachers and workshop leaders and seminar presenters and everything else that I was able to, with their help, understand the belief systems that I had taken on and begin then to reclaim the truth of who I am. And then I think the biggest wake up point for me, well, not wake up at this point because I'd already started the wake up process, but my biggest aha happened in 2003 when I did the Mankind Project New Warrior Training Adventure, and I went on the carpet and I did this really, really powerful work where I basically unloaded all that rage. And then when I got rid of that, what came out underneath was a huge amount of sorrow. I mean, I was crying and yelling, and I had snot coming out of my nose. I had crap coming out of my eyes. I'm telling you, it was a mess. But when that was done, that's when I had that moment of awareness of I was one with every person in that room. And I realized I was one with every person everywhere, not just that room. So that's when it started to happen. And then, of course, I didn't completely understand the whole mental processes that I had gone through. And I'm still learning, even today. And that's 2003, I said. So almost 20 years ago that really happened. And and so now I understand that we make choices at a very young age that can impact the rest of our lives if we don't wake up and pay attention. And so that's really what my goal is. And my work is really about helping people to learn and understand the truth of who they really are, and that they're not this story that they've made up. They're not the roles they take on. They're not their name. They're not their body. They're not their thoughts. They're not their feelings. They are the energy, the isness, the amazing beauty that somehow experiences all those things. And our language doesn't give us the words to really describe this in a very good way. So we have to kind of do our best. And I know you and I understand each other. And I'm hoping that the people who listen to this also understand what we're saying. Because it's not easy to explain something or to describe an experience that other people may not have had.
Oh, absolutely. And, that for a very long time, I tried to explain what I went through, and I realized nobody got it. And
That's right.
Nobody that I knew got it. It
Yeah.
wasn't until people who had gone through it that I started meeting those people, that they began to not to validate what I experienced, because I didn't need validation. I know what I felt, but to help me better integrate what it meant from the perspective of one who's already integrated that truth.
Right.
Because once we integrate that truth, then we can be in service to the others who are in the process of integration.
Exactly.
But it's oh my goodness, you said so many amazing things. You're the truth that you chose to say, yes, that's who I am. Mom, everybody else knows me better than I know myself. So for me, and for all these years that I've been coaching, it's the same for everybody. We all have that one story, that one decision about who we are that locks us into what's not true about us. And for me, when I was, back then in the days when they didn't have sonograms and things like that, I'm 60 years old now. So a long time ago, I have an older sister, and when my mom was pregnant with me, they thought, this is the boy. Joseph is going to have a son. It's going to be Joseph Jr. And then out comes Lina, and no dingling. I was quite the disappointment. So I grew up literally hearing for such a long time, we wish you would have been a boy. We wish you would have been a boy. So my story, what I said, yes, then there is something wrong with me. And
Right.
And another little angle to that, but it's all the same thing, was I'm a disappointment to people. I'm not enough. I'm not enough. There's something wrong with me. I'm not enough. I'm a disappointment. Well, you begin to let that run in the background long enough, which children, of course, they do. Because my parents, as wonderful as they were, and I know they loved me, and I know the whole family loved me, they always kept telling the story of, oh yeah, Joe wanted a son, and then we got this wonderful girl. Well, that telling of that story of Joe was disappointed stayed with me for a long time.
Sure. Yeah.
But then it's almost like to add insult to injury. My parents, of course, they were stuck with a boy name, and they took their time to find a girl name, and I'm Latin. So my mom was looking through a Time Life magazine back in the day where they spent a week in the hospital. And then they finally she's reading one of those magazines, and some Russian dude, an astronaut, had a son, and his name is spelled the way my name is, Laina, Lina. And since I got quite a few Russian friends, I've had several tell me, oh yeah, that's a common, name in Russia. Relatively common. So because it ended in A, and I'm Latin, Lina, like Maria, like Josefina, whatever, ends in A, so it's a girl name. So not only did I have to hear, oh yeah, Joe wanted a boy, we didn't get a boy, but we got a girl. But oh, by the way, we have a girl with a boy name, because it was a boy name. So for as long as I could remember. And it was probably 10, 12 years of my life. That story was told ad nauseum. Oh yeah. So where'd you get your name? Well, I wasn't a boy and I'm the girl with the boy name. And it was like, so having to unpack where we get what I call our original lie starts the journey of returning to the truth of who we are, because that original lie has us cultivate a persona to fit that narrative. And whether it's a victim or whatever the story is, I'm not enough. I have to prove to everybody how I'm not enough. And so how did you make it be true for you that you didn't know yourself, everybody else knew you, but you didn't? What were some of the ways that you manifested that as your reality?
Basically, I think one of the ways I did it was probably, some people would classify it as a passive aggressive kind of approach, I would think. Like, I wouldn't ever say, I want to have X, Y, or Z for dinner, and I want to go to the movie tonight. I would try to manipulate people by asking them, what would you like for dinner tonight? How does steak sound? I try to get them to make the decision for me, and if they'd say something different, I'd say, okay, well, I can go with that. I would just kind of go along with it. And then similarly, if we want to go out for a movie or, I don't know, whatever it was we did back in those days, go out and play cards or whatever, I would do the same thing. Would you like to go play cards tonight? Would you like to go play cards tonight? I'm trying to get the other person to say yes so that I can go along and be the good guy. That was, I think, my default behavior more than anything else.
Yeah.
How about you?
If they wanted to do it, then they know better than you.
That's right.
Then you could say, oh yeah, we went to have steak because Bob wanted steak.
That's right.
They were certain. Yes. And that kept you from saying, I want to go have steak tonight. For me, growing up with this idea that I was a disappointment, I turned into the biggest people pleaser you could ever know. I didn't want to disappoint anybody. I didn't want anybody to be disappointed with me, because when I was 10 years old, my dad left my family, and my dad just left. He was in love with another woman. It wasn't until I was an adult and could have conversations with my mom that I finally realized, well, he left because my mom was a bitch. I'd have left her, two of us married to her. So it made sense. But as a 10-year-old who was not the son, the story in the back of my mind is, if I'd have been a boy, Dad would not have left us. So people leave me because I'm not what they want.
Yeah.
So not only did I become a people pleaser, but I was a clinger. I mean, like, I'm sure some of the people that I was friends with or dated, or I was clinging. I was, please don't abandon me. Don't abandon me. And then, of course, when I had a couple of abandonments, whether it was a friend didn't want to invite me to their house, or I felt the rejection of my mom wanted, instead of taking me somewhere, took a sister, left me home for whatever reason. Once I began to feel a few more episodes of rejection because I wasn't what everybody wanted, then I began to create very, very manipulative. Well, I'll people please you and get you to really like me. But if I get a whiff that you're going to leave me, I'm going to leave you first.
Right.
Zero skills to work through a conversation and unpack what's going on here. Let's talk about it. It was like, nope, you are not going to do this to me. So I'm going to leave you. And when I look back after I had these awarenesses, of course, my journey started when I was 42. And I had that encounter when I was 47. So it was like 5 years of being on this journey to try and figure out who I am, where all my thoughts, my fears, my insecurities came from. And then I meet the source of all that is, and I'm one with that. And I'm going, wow. So my whole life, I made up this story that there was something wrong with me because of what they knew better. Because they were the ones who
Right.
said I wasn't a boy. Instead of, you know what? I am who I am as God created me. I am the isness of God. But I didn't have parents who raised me consciously to know that who I am has nothing to do with anybody else.
Yeah.
So I had to basically take myself back to birth. I had to go through a procedure where I was that baby being birthed coming out of the canal. And here I am in all my glorious nakedness. And they see I'm not a boy. I am all girl. And I am a magnificent girl. And what I am is exactly what Creator wanted to create. And it's exactly what my soul wanted to experience in this lifetime. So I had to go through a total, complete rewriting of my story. And when I say rewrite, is to write it, to make it right, instead of just to rewrite the story. I was correcting the wrongness in my mind. I was rewriting it so that it was the right story about me, because it was accurate. It was my truth. I chose to be a girl in this lifetime, and then began the relationship with me. That's when I began to discover who I am, because before that, I was just trying not to be who I was, because it only disappointed people.
Yeah, I know. Well,
isn't that crazy?
Not at all. Not at all. I think this is a very common quality of most human journeys. I think we all try to be something that we are not as a result of some of the teachings and conditioning that we get as children. I noticed you said that you started this journey when you were 42. It's interesting to me because when I had my major wake-up call, the thing that really started this whole thing off for me, I think I was 39 at the time. So we were in the same time frame of our lives. And, you know, we talk about these midlife crises that seem to happen. And maybe that's exactly what they're talking about. It's coming to that realization that what I've been doing up to now doesn't work.
Exactly.
Something's got to change. Well, so there's that. But I love your journey. I think you and I have so many common elements in our separate journeys. I mean, we both basically did the same thing. You know, you went more into the people pleaser mode, and I think I was doing the same sort of thing, but in a more manipulative way. I think that's what I was doing. But, you know, as you were talking, I was wondering, I was going to ask you this question, but I asked myself instead, how many of those old behaviors from before my 40s do I still engage in? Like, for example, the idea that maybe do I demur and let other people make choices and I just kind of go along? Do I still do that? And, you know, the answer is yes, I do. But it's not because I'm trying to get what I want anymore. It's more because I don't have the same agenda that I used to have. If somebody suggests, hey, I'd like to do this, I am very clear. I'll say, yeah, I'd love to do that with you. Or no, thanks, that doesn't interest me. I am now in that place where I can make the choice. Or similarly, instead of saying, what would you like for dinner tonight? What I'll say is, I'm thinking of making X. How does that sound to you?
Yeah.
Now I'm making it about me. Would you like to join me for dinner? That's what I'm going to have for dinner. Hope you'll join me, kind of, you know? But that's kind of, there's similar behaviors, but there's a different flavor to them now, you know? And I've known you now, I think, for probably more than 10 years now, I think. 10 or 12 years, I think, that we've known each other. Yeah. And I have a pretty good handle on how you show up, and I really like it. Yeah, it's and the other thing that I was thinking of as you were talking about going through your process of ritually rebirthing yourself, I was thinking, isn't it interesting? Maybe as you were being born and this nakedness and showing that you're a girl, that is the start of a really important journey for your father and mother. You know, maybe they had to experience the the process of not getting what you want all the time or something. I don't know. I mean, I don't really know what their journey was. And so now I'm thinking, what was my mother's journey in saying those 8 words to me back when I was 3 years old? What was she trying to achieve in her life? So it'd be interesting now to go and do some reflection on that, because as we said at the beginning of the show, truth is really a matter of perspective.
Yeah, exactly. And you said a couple of really, really cool things there, but let me touch on the last thing. I don't know my parents' side of things, because when I started my journey, both of them were already deceased. So a lot of my healing work with mom and dad was really, it was
energetic work.
Energetic, completely. And I would visualize them there, and I would say what I needed to say. And in all of those visualizations, it was absolutely beautiful. Powerful things happened. Several times I had the opportunity to role play with somebody who played the role of dad. And the person who was facilitating that workshop instructed the person who played the role to operate kind of like that, mean dad side that I had, alcoholic and unavailable. Because actually that person knew that feeling, because he was that for his children. So he got to play that side. And my healing was very different from that side. What was a piece of it, I should say, not different. And then she had the instructor had another person play the role of the gentle, loving father that wasn't really what I was familiar with. And it's like I melted. My little girl melted. And whoa, how wonderful it would have been to have had my dad be that way. So in those physical experiences, having that contrast was wonderful. But then in my mind, it was all energetic, because I had to forgive the alcoholic father who couldn't be present. And I had to actually rewrite my story, correct it. That dad had a loving side, but he couldn't be who he was, because I don't know what story he was carrying. I don't know what his lie was. And my mom passed away. It was actually her passing that activated my journey. So I say she gave birth to me twice, once physically and once spiritually, was my spiritual rebirth. But something you had mentioned before, you talked about that. And it just escaped my mind. So maybe it doesn't need to be shared. Totally forgot.
It's okay. No. I have these wonderful thoughts come through my head sometimes while you're speaking, and then they go away.
What I did want to share is I just remembered it because this was really important for me. I became a people pleaser to manipulate people. And once you can be honest about yourself, then came I'm never going to do anything nice for anybody else, because, I can't possibly be nice. I'm a manipulator. So I pulled back, and I withheld actually being myself for quite a while. And it took me a good year or two to realize, I love doing things for people. And when I was married, my former husband, we had a lake house, and for 6, 7, 8 years. And I used to do retreats at the lake house. And the number had to be never more than 8 people. So 8 and myself, 9, to accommodate for bedding and space and all that good stuff, even though the house could accommodate more. And when I priced this retreat, I would tell everybody, you're going to have all the meals will be prepared. Everything is going to be done. You arrive, everything's going to be ready. When we're done, you leave. Everything will get cleaned up after you leave. And as my, first groups came in, and I had many people who came multiple times, so they knew what I was doing. They knew I cleaned the house and got it ready. They knew I went to the grocery store, got all the food. I cooked everything. I did the bulk of the cleaning, unless some of them, and they always did, wanted to help. And I cleaned it up after they left, and left the house ready for us to come and enjoy it, whenever we were coming back. And I had somebody who said to me, why do you do all that? I mean, why don't you just hire somebody else? Because I easily could have. But I said to them, for a very long time, I did things to please people so I could manipulate them. I now do what is pleasing to me, and that is to take care of people. And it totally switched everything around from my heart. I love doing that, but there's no agenda. Nobody ever left these retreats feeling like I didn't help her clean or I didn't help her cook. She's upset with me. She's got that, why aren't people doing? Never. And people said, it feels so good to come. And what was so amazing is that many people, because back to your point, we don't know what other people's lessons are, but I had so many of these people who came to these retreats who said to me, I never let myself receive. I just had a healing experience because of your insistence in doing everything. Because I would tell them, only help if you want to. And some people would say, well, I really don't feel like it, but I feel obligated. And I'm like, then don't honor that part of you. And it was so amazing how I get to do things for other people, but it's because it pleases Lina. It is all about me. And that is so liberating that I have that much love to give. And there's no agenda. It's not sticky. It's not trying to, it's not manipulative. And it's just powerful. So what do you talked a little bit about that. Now you share what you want. Hey, I'm cooking this. You want to join me? But what are some other profound, I'm going to call it a profound freedom. Maybe that's a talk we can use next time. What is freedom? What is that for you? But what profound freedoms did you experience from letting go of everybody else knows what's best for you?
That is still a work in progress. But really coming to the place of, I don't really care what other people think of me or whether they judge me or not. And in doing that, that's probably one of the biggest freedoms that I've given myself. In doing that, I have come to the realization that while my ego mind likes to believe that people are talking about me, thinking about me, making up stories about me and all that, that's bullshit. Most people couldn't care less. Sure, they're friendly, they want to be friends and stuff, but most of the time they're so busy with their own stuff. They got their own stories going on. They're not thinking about me at all. And that has been a great liberation right there.
Yeah.
So I don't have to worry about showing up a particular way because nobody cares anyway, And I think that anyone, all of us can learn that, once we get to the place of being willing to say, this is who I am and this is what I am. And I love all of this.
Yeah.
Once we get there, then we begin to say, now it's not so much I don't give a shit what you think about me. It's more like I do care what you think, and I don't let it influence me to manipulate me to become a different kind of person. I'm not going to let you decide how I show up, but I am interested in your feedback, and I am interested in your thoughts and your perspectives. So that's been a shift too. You see, there's lots and lots of tiny little twists and turns that have happened over the years that I just love it all.
Oh, I love that. Yes. Well, going back to what for me is absolute truth is, as we've been taught, the Creator created us in its image. And to me, the image of the Creator is love. That's it.
Right.
So whenever I'm thinking, I and the Father, Mother, God are one, I and God and I are one, I'm love. That's it. Because that's what it is. So from that place of recognizing that I am love, then the only way we buy into a lie of what's wrong with us or what don't know enough about or whatever it is because we didn't have models, really good models of people who were in love with themselves, because the sense of the father gets passed on to the, to the son, right, to the child, to whatever. And that is, as I grew older, not quite when I was already going through my transformation because my parents were gone, but as I was transforming and looking back at their lives, their behavior was, you could tell they didn't love themselves. you know, if you love yourself, you don't subject yourself to putting up with an alcoholic person who mistreats you. You don't put up with a wife who is, belligerent or nasty to you. They couldn't have loved themselves, so they couldn't teach me how to love myself. And when I began to realize, that's what's happening here, because when I had that moment of transcendence, what was shown to me is that all that has been created was created out of love to be loved through one who remembers that they are love. So that clarity that everything is love is one of the reasons that I so loved discovering the teachings of the Course in Miracles, because it tells you very simple. Everything is either love or a call for love. So if somebody's being fearful, jealous, belligerent, feeling shame, guilt, they're calling for love. They just don't know how to be loving. So they need a model of one who can love them in their ugliness, love them in their judgmentalness. And that's what, to me, you're doing. You can have whatever opinion you have about me. I love me. So I love you. Bring it on. Let me hear what you have to say.
Exactly.
And what resonates and leave what doesn't. But yeah, let's definitely talk about freedom next time that we do our conversation, because that to me is a key piece that we understand the freedom that opens up for us when we learn the truth of who we are.
Yeah. You said something there about the Course in Miracles. Everything is either love or a call for love. And that is I've been teaching that very thought, but in a different way for quite a while. Once, with all the work I've done on shadow and uncovering and illuminating and healing and integrating shadow, one thing I have learned is that every aspect of ourselves that's hidden in shadow and is still acting out is doing so because it is trying to give or receive love. And so what I have come to say now, I have a little simple saying. I say everything, every thought, word, action, and emotion that we experience is motivated at its deepest level by a desire to give or receive love. And so I say basically the same thing as the Course in Miracles, maybe a little more wordy, but it's really coming down to an awareness that when we are in a state of healthy love, then whatever thoughts, words, action, and emotions we engage in appear to be acceptable to everybody else. Yeah. But whenever our behaviors appear to be dysfunctional, then even though we're still, trying to find love in a dysfunctional way, find love or give love in a dysfunctional way, then that's considered unacceptable by other people.
Yeah.
And that's why we tend to push more of that stuff into the background, And so the whole process of uncovering these shadows, learning what their true motivation is, then you can it becomes so easy to love unconditionally when you realize what they're really trying to do.
Yeah.
And when you have the ability to love your own shadows, i.e., all of the dark parts of yourself,
yeah,
then you have arrived at a place of unconditional love.
Yeah.
And it's like Jesus said, you're told to love your friends, but I say love your enemies. And he's absolutely right. You got to love the things that irritate you the most, because that is where healing comes from. If I see something in you, Lina, that just pisses me off, that's not about you. That's about me. There is some aspect of myself that pisses me off, and you just happen to reflect it. And if we can learn to do that individually and as a collective, man, can you imagine what this world would be like?
Well, that's to me where freedom is tied to this conversation, because once we liberate ourselves from that misinformation that we picked up as children, and we let ourselves be loving, we become the change we want to see in the world, because we want a world that's more loving and peaceful and kind. Well, how can that world get created if we are, calling for love, if with our anger, with our judgment, with our righteousness, with our greed, with our misbehavior. So we have to be the one who has to become the loving presence, so that we can then understand what a call for love is, because then we go, oh, now I know what a call for love is. I miss those signs in my children when they were little. I couldn't see their call for love because I was too busy, letting them know I knew better. And it's
Right. Yeah.
so it's been a big shift. But that's what I loved about these conversations, is that this nitty gritty about what we have experienced individually, to me, leaves so many, it's like breadcrumbs on the trail for those who are walking this path. And we're just coming here with the desire to share. And in this sharing, I get to learn so much more about you, and you get to learn about me. And that just, it expands my love for you. It expands my capacity to be present to another little, isness that is there, and feel that connection. So thank you so much for reviving our wake up calls, because that's what humanity's in the middle of. It's a big old wake up call. We got to remember the truth of who we are and start living from that. Just so powerful.
And now that you've mentioned that, I just wanted to do a little shout out here. I don't know if you've been paying attention. I'm sure you've seen the story about this convoy traveling across Canada.
Yeah.
Do you know that it reached such a huge length that the front end of the convoy was entering Ontario as the tail end of the convoy was entering Manitoba?
I have no idea how far that is. So put in perspective.
480 kilometers.
Wow.
Which is probably what, I think it's just under 300 miles. I don't, I can't do the math in my head right off the top, but it's something in that neighborhood. And, this thing started out as, 300 or 400 trucks were going to do it. And then it grew to 1,000, and then it just kept growing. They got over 50,000 trucks. And now there are trucks coming up from the United States to join them. Yeah. So it's expected that there's going to be over 100,000 trucks on Ottawa tomorrow probably at about this time.
Oh yeah, the 29th. Wow. But I would probably say that's very impressive, that many miles. But I heard that they're coming from every corner of Canada. Yep, so there's got to be lots of long stretches of nothing but
I know. Well, the reason I'm bringing that up, not because it's just a major event, but because it signifies what you just mentioned, that we are waking up. We're waking up in a big way. Yeah. If this many people are willing to stand up just against the vaccine mandates, it tells me that there's huge hope for the world, that love is starting to come up, rise up, and demolish the whole cabal structure that exists in the world right now. So I'm very, very hopeful about that. And it just gives me lots of excitement. I got goosebumps just thinking about this thing.
Well, when I had my encounter with Source, it was made abundantly clear that that is the only outcome for all that is coming, because everything unlike love has to dissolve. We're transcending that survival aspect of our identity, that egoic identity. And that's what so many people are beginning to realize. Wait a second, I don't have to be so ugly. I don't have to be such a bully or such a victim. I don't have to be that. And so the world is the reflection of this awakening. And those truckers are saying, hey, I'm happy to do my job. I love doing my job. Like me, I love taking care of people. I love driving my truck. I love delivering the goods. I like, spending my time driving this rig from point A to point B, coming back empty-handed or coming back with something else. I love that. So don't tell me what to do with my body, because it's not something that I want. I love myself enough to know what should be in this body and not. So don't tell me what to do, and I'll continue to do what I love. That's all they're saying. That's all they're saying.
That's right. And I 100% agree with them.
Hey, me
I
too.
mean, you and I have been on the same wavelength, since this whole pandemic started. And yeah, it's been kind of fun to watch things happen and to see little sides of the facade dropping off over here, and maybe a bridge falling apart over here, and something else falling apart, and we're starting to see the whole structure crumble. And that's beautiful. I mean, when we finally get back to truth in journalism, truth in politicians and all the rest of it,
In the medical world and education system.
So that's the important aspect of truth in the physical world. And I'm just so excited because more and more people are saying, no more lies. We're done with lies.
Yeah, because they're done with lying to themselves. They don't want to be lied to anymore. It's a beautiful thing. Yes, this mass awakening is a reflection of the isness that wants to express itself and be love. But to be love, it needs to first remember where it forgot that is what is true about who we are.
Yeah. And that's what we're here for, Lina, is to, just to remind everybody that we're just ordinary humans like everybody else. And we just happen to have had a little bit of experience with some of the growth stuff. And we're just sharing what we've learned. So you can take it or leave it. If it doesn't resonate for you, that's great. If it does resonate for you, that's great too. Please share with us and let us know. That's what we'd like.
Yes. And if you like this, share it with others and invite them to come join us for these beautiful, intimate conversations with my brother. Yeah. Love you, David.
I love you too, Lina. It's been so great.